Hey, I've got a guest next to help ring in the new year, as well as bring back one of my favorite shows for a fourth season in 2025. That's next on Brio TV, the podcast. Hi, everybody. Bill Brio here, and it's a brand new year. And who better to help ring in a new year than Mark Critch? He's part of the This Hour Has 22 Minutes troupe who are working New Year's Eve as CBC counts down the end of 2024. And 22 Minutes is having a banner year. It's been very funny so far and deserves this special year-end opportunity, something another sketch troupe, the Royal Canadian Air Force, used to make the most of every December on CBC. A week later, on Tuesday, January the 7th, Mark returns with the fourth season of Son of a Critch. And I had the great good fortune to fly out to St. John's, Newfoundland, and Labrador last August to interview the entire cast. What a pleasure that was. It was great fun spending some time with them all. Over the next month or two, I'll be featuring more conversations from that trip, including chats with Mark's co-stars Claire Rankin, Colton Gobbo, Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, and of course, the one and only Malcolm McDowell. In the meantime, join me and Mark as we talk about all things Critch, including his crazy, rash decision to put me in the background as an extra this season. It's a terrible risk, to be sure. But anyway, otherwise, he shows very good judgment. Here he is, author, writer, executive producer, star, and former skateboarding student of the current Prime Minister, Mark Critch. Mark Critch, thank you very much for inviting me to St. John's. It's always a treat and a thrill to support a show I really, really enjoy, Son of a Critch, Season 4, coming January to CBC, right?
Correct.
Mark, we've talked about this before, and we were talking earlier today about this, and it's overwhelming to me how much this is based on actual fact, actual stories from your growing up, that young Mark Critch on this show, Benjamin, is playing you at age 15 now?
Correct, yeah.
And he's entering high school in Season 4. So we've watched all these other parallels. Your dad, who you play, his role at the radio station, your brother, all of it's based on actual things. Sometimes the clothes that they wear are frighteningly close to...
In the case of my dad's red VOCM jacket, it's his patch and buttons from his real one. And they brought in his real one that he used to wear for work, and they rebuilt it to be in my size.
Okay, so, and when we were looking at Video Village, some scenes that we were shooting here today, and where are we, by the way, or with the street where you were shooting?
Parade Street. This is known as the Metro bus turnaround. So this is where all the buses would stop for the bus driver's break. So it's a big part of my childhood was waiting for the bus driver to come back in from using the toilet in a little shelter in the roundabout, to quote our friends, the Beatles and Benny Lane.
So you can smell the reality, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, no. My high school is just a 5-minute walk from here. So we would come down here, rush here for lunchtime to try and sneak in a takeout French fries or something at lunch and then run back. So it's all very much what happened.
I walked through your high school today, and this is the actual building that is the high school that viewers will see in Season 4. Mark has graduated to high school, and the thing that blew me away was seeing the theater in the high school. That you guys have a gym, you have classrooms like everybody else. I saw the boiler room, but the theater is magnificent. It is a very professional space with a orchestra pit that's deep, and if you stand on that stage, you look out at those seats, maybe 600 seats. 1,000 seats. 1,000 seats. It goes back far into the side. They're raked at just the right angle. Mm-hmm. It's like Stratford.
Yeah.
And you've got height behind you to fly up any kind of scenery. You could put Pirates of Penzance.
Oh, yeah.
Space. So you were a student here, and you saw that, and you thought, I got to get in on this, I guess, basically.
Well, no, I had in the 9th grade, Sister Rosalita Fury told me I had to be into play, because she said, you can pull this off, and she made me be in a play. And I thought I'd be murdered, but I wanted to, but I was afraid I'd get beaten up and stuff. Right. And this is a play we do, I think it's season 1 or 2, but it's sort of like a play in the show. It's like a Last Supper themed play in real life. And Mark's father, Mike Sr., me, had been in the same play years ago when he was in school. What happened in real life was Dad had been in this play called The Empty Room, which is the nativity through the eyes of the innkeeper who turned them away. So it's a nativity story through the least interesting person in the nativity story. And Dad had played this role. Hamar, and I came back and said, Sister Elizabeth has put me in, before Sister Rosalita, yes, Sister Rosalita had put me in this play, and I had to play this part. Dad said, oh my God, I played that same role. And it was a big bonding moment for us. And I'd been excited about, theater and stuff. And I was like, I really want to do this. Finding out about high school, I saw there was a theater arts course. I signed up for it, not realizing the size of that theater, or that the theater arts teacher was this guy, Kevin Lewis, who was huge in the amateur theater scene here, and a really cool guy. Mm-hmm. And I saw him on the parent-teachers night for the parents to have a look at the school. Mom went to see Mr. Lewis and said, my son's very interested in theater. He wants to be an actor. And he took her, he spun her around, and he dipped her, and he said, Madam, I'm going to make your son a star. And Mom came home and said, I want you doing theater arts. I think the theater arts teacher had been drinking, which he had. Yeah. And so in this, to what we're shooting today, is Kevin Lewis does that exact same spin and dips Mom and says those words to Claire Rankin. Right. And so it's pretty cool. So, but when I saw that theater, and then having this teacher really who was like, yeah, you can do this, and it's a career that you can do and you will do, gave you all the wind in your sails. And who do you have playing that teacher? That teacher is Sean Doyle. So who do we get to play this? It's my big mentor and a big turning point in my life. A great actor, a wonderful choice, but there's a special reason, right? Well, and the thing is with Sean is you wouldn't think him right away because it's a comedy show and he's such a great dramatic actor. But his father was actually the best friend of this guy, my theater arts teacher Kevin Lewis, who passed away this year. And his dad, Jerry Doyle, is a great friend. Sean's uncle, Clark Doyle, a great mentor in my life, whom myself and Kevin Lewis, the real guy, we'd still have we'd go for meals together in this place, the Governor's Pub, all the time up to this year. And we're still very good friends. So Sean's family and in this way, and he knows this world so well because his father was a big part of it, and so he's playing his father's best friend, and who passed away this year. So I sent out the offer to Sean, see if he'd bite. I did it through official things because I didn't want to call him, put him on the spot. Right. And he called me and he's like, well, this is weird. What are you doing? You know? And I was like, yeah, well, I know, man. How do you feel? And he's like, do you want me to do an impression of him? I'm like, no, be yourself. He goes, oh, let me think about it. And he read the script, and then he was in on it. But it's been very weird for him, I think, because he's playing someone he knows so well. Yeah. Not as well as I knew him, probably, but it's that life, you know. And so I'm in a situation where I'm on that giant stage at Holy Heart, where Kevin Lewis would teach me. And I'm watching Sean Doyle be Kevin Lewis teaching young Mark. Right. And it's kind of like an out-of-body experience because this is the first time we've been doing a lot of things where they actually happen. Right. Which is a little odd, but it's it puts even more, it underlines it even more. Like it's already a house of mirrors. But when you're in the actual setting... Well, we had theater arts classroom was 201, and then we'd always do stuff in there and then go out on the stage. While we're filming that scene, our video village for the producers to watch was in 201. So I'm sitting in my theater arts classroom watching a guy play my theater arts teacher all these years later. Just not related to anything, but is there really a Sister Beard who haunts that high school? Sister Bede. There is a story. I don't know. I've been all over the place. I haven't seen her. We've heard it from the janitorial staff today.
that they hear knock, 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 and there's a nun who is still unhappy about something. That's
maybe that there's a clown who's taken over the school to make fun of nuns. I would think if anything would make you roll over in your grave, it would be that.
This Sister's Fury. Did back then I used to get the strap from Sister Martha Ann in Etobicoke.
Yeah.
Did she ever resort to a corporal punishment?
No, not by then.
You could have called her Fists of Fury.
No, not then, but the earlier on they did. And then I have many. Sister Rose is partially based on Sister Rosemary Ryan, who was a very nice woman.
Yeah.
But there was a couple of other nuns and who were principals and stuff. And anyway, so the first year she wrote me and said, Mark, look, we love the show. All the nuns, so the nuns watch it in the convent, right? And they said, we all get together and watch the show. Now, look, you have strapping in there. Now, we never strapped anybody.
Huh?
And I wrote back, yes, now, sister, you had Mr. Dunn, the vice principal, knock me fingerprints off. Now, you didn't do it exactly, but you're the one told me had to. And she's like, well, okay, so we had letters back and forth. Yesterday, I was outside my house, and the nunmobile pulled over, and Sister Rosemary got out along with another nun and started talking to me about the show again. And we write letters back and forth. So she'll see an episode and she'll write me a letter about it, what she liked.
You're getting notes from the convent.
Yeah, and we go right back and forth. And I sent them Christmas time. I dropped them all off T-shirts and hats and all this stuff. So they all sent me a picture of all the nuns wearing the stuff. So we have wonderful conversations back and forth about it.
Are they praying for you?
Oh, they've always been. They're very wonderful. But we have wonderful conversations about it because they're memories too. And they like, even though it often will make fun of the church or criticize certain teachings and things like that, they think it's fair and they get it and they like that this kind of thing is being talked about and the families can watch about it and stuff like that. So it's very interesting.
It's I think it's fantastic. I'm older than you are by quite a bit, and I had nuns when I grew up at grade school and then priests later at high school, and Sister Martha Ann did give people the strap all the time.
I had it.
And this particular school, Our Lady of Peace, the O'Haras went to. So Catherine O'Hara was older than I am.
Oh, wow.
Her brother Michael, Mickey, Dan Redigan, you might know. These guys.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so Michael went and revisited this nun later in her life at a reunion thing 10 years ago maybe, recorded a little video of her and basically got her to admit that she was out of line and she was remorseful for going over too far with giving kids a strap. It was fascinating little video from Michael O'Hara. Speaking of video and fascinating, you showed me, we're standing on the street right where you're shooting today, and you showed me a video of a performance of a film that was performed as a play on that stage we're talking about.
Yeah, so with this... you mean the educational video we're shooting today?
Yes.
Yeah, so this was a thing where I gotten a part through Kevin Lewis, gave me the heads up about it, and it was a film that the school board was making, dramatizing the need for young women to get non-traditional careers.
Yeah.
So it's this girl around the bay, and her boyfriend is like, you shouldn't go to university, that's for losers. But she wants to become an engineer. And at the end, a girl comes in and ends up fixing the pinball machine that's been broken. The guy's like, that machine's broken. She's like, I know, I'm here to fix it. And I play the good boyfriend who's like, well, I don't know, I think maybe she should be able to get a job. And anyway, so but this was a big thing for me, it's very serious. In it, I met this other guy, Steve McGraw, who had done some plays and had done... he had done a Canadian film and stuff like this, so he was more advanced than I, same age, and we ended up forming this sketch comedy troupe, Cat Fud, and renting out the LSPU Hall, and then that started everything else for me. So this is us meeting, but this is an actual film that had shown up. I hadn't seen it in years, but it showed up on TikTok. People started sharing it, going, hey, look at this, because Rick Mercer's in it for a second. I'm in it. So people, hey, look at Mark Critch, baby Mark Critch.
Who put it out? Do you know who posted it?
One of these CanCon kind of accounts, and Tom Power sent it to me from Q. He's like, look at this.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, right, that's an episode. So the filming of this now and getting the part and showing up and shooting it and having my first ever experience on a film set with a cameraman and a guy with a boom and stuff. And a director, that's what we're shooting here now. Yeah. And in it, I lied and said I could play pool because it's a pool scene.
Right.
And I I just wanted it so bad. I got there, and I don't know if you've ever been embarrassed, but when there's a whole crew looking at you, and you clearly can't pay pool, and they have to stop. And it was like, what are you doing? I was like, I just really want to do it. I don't know. And anyway, so I was like, what the fuck? What the hell's wrong with you? So anyway, blah, blah, blah. So that's what we're shooting today. So this is another kind of real story.
So young Benjamin Ayres is doing what you went through in that film.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Mark Critch. Well, the most wonderful time of the year is here, and what better way than to watch a movie or two or specials or other goodies on Paramount Plus Canada. Grab your hot cocoa and dive in with all the holiday cheer of that 1947 favorite, It's a Wonderful Life. Adam Sandler's 8 Crazy Nights, Scrooged, Holly Jolly Homicide, and so much more. Plus, will Santa make it to Bikini Bottom? Kids and the young at heart can enjoy an all-new stop-motion animated SpongeBob SquarePants holiday special, SpongeBob and Sandy's Country Christmas. And nothing says Christmas more than the return of a favorite anti-hero with the highly anticipated prequel Dexter, Original Sin. Christian Slater stars as Dexter's daddy, Harry, and yes, that is original Dexter Michael C. Hall narrating this 10-episode thriller, which premieres December 13th. Take a stab at something different this holiday season when Dexter Original Sin premieres on Paramount Plus Canada. Well, it's the most wonderful time of the year. We're back with Emily Gagne. Emily, what do you got? Here you got a great deal for us for this Christmas, right?
Yes, I've got some sweet treats for movie lovers.
Ah, nice. Okay.
Hollywood Suite is on free preview from December 1st to January 5th. And that means if you have cable in Canada, you most likely can watch Hollywood Suite, all 4 of our channels, plus our on-demand selection for free.
That's like getting hundreds of Christmas presents, right? You got so many great movies coming up.
Exactly. And, sometimes you just want to kick back after a crazy family dinner or maybe a crazy night on New Year's and just watch a marathon of your favorite movies. We've got all the Christmas classics like Love Actually, The Holiday, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But also we have Paddington, which I think is one of the best movies ever.
There you go. Britain's favorite bear. Listen, Emily, have a great Christmas yourself. Thank you very much for all the update on Hollywood Suite.
Thanks, Bill.
We're back with that son of a Critch named Mark.
To me, this is unprecedented. I don't know. I can't think of an example in a television show where the creator of the show can show a video of the actual thing that you're recreating that he was involved in, and everybody can look at the real thing and then go shoot the scripted thing.
We had an episode like this last year where we rented out this theater in a cabaret thing, so I'm performing to people drinking and stuff, where I do an impression of my dad. And we had the actual video of me on stage doing that impression of my dad at that show. I was able to show Benjamin, like, this is what I did.
Is it the Mark McKinney episode? Or
no, this is Andy Jones was the guest star.
Oh, right.
As a stand-up.
Yeah.
And so we have a video of that, and then we have stuff of, there's a Peace Accord Festival, Accord spelled A-CHORD. It was rock music and UNICEF stuff and everything as well. I did comedy hosting, and my friend Richie Perez, whose character in the show, his band Potato Bug first played, and there was a grungy kind of music. So recreating that, and there's video of me on stage doing comedy, and there's video on YouTube of Richie's band doing it. So we're able to show these kids, well, this is what happened.
And just to explain that, Richie is on the show. That's Ben's young friend, Richie, who, and so you've got the actual Richie. He's kind of involved in the production of the show.
Oh, yeah, and very much so. And he's teaching new Richie how to play the part.
So involved that on his arm he has tattoos.
A son of a Critch cast tattoo.
Yes.
Because it meant a lot to him, because Richie, Richie is the only kid of color in our school. He was Filipino Canadian, and so he had a lot of bullying, and he was very shy, and he'd always have his head down. And then he discovered music and skateboarding in the downtown scene, where it's a little bit different. And then he played grunge, and his dad would always say, look up, because he's always looking down when he's singing to his feet. And then he started to look up, and he'd written this song, Misled, and it starts it's like the lyrics it's very grungy, and it's kind of about finding yourself. It starts off like, pass me another cup of water, I want to drown, but how sad he is. And then it goes, and then later it goes, I'm shining through you, and it gets really big. And this was Richie's big song. And this is where he gets up in front of people, and he's himself, And then so what we're able to do is now we have Richie's helping Mark learn that song. Alan Doyle's doing the backing track, and Richie's going to play and sing it. And Richie's there, this song he had written about not being seen as a kid, and now he's helping a kid play him on TV singing that song. So that's a really nice kind of healing moment for Richie and stuff.
So is the show all about closure?
In a way, and you know what? It's kind of like what I always think of it now is what I realize is in life, there's all these different moments that become memories. Yeah. And it's kind of like more like you have these memories, and which of those, what makes those seconds in a day become something you'll think about for the rest of your life or remember. There's only so many hours in that. I was like, how many hours were in that week? I remember 5 minutes of it. Why? What is it about? It's not just that. It's a culmination of the things that get you there.
Right.
And as I'm doing all this, I start to see, why things were these important moments. This one here, I meet Steve McGraw. And it was my first film role. But what's more important about my first film role is I meet Steve McGraw. I met somebody else who becomes like my McCartney to my Lennon in the Newfoundland sketch comedy thing. We go to our rooms and we start writing sketches now together. And then we perform them together. And then we get better. And so this is really me becoming me in here in a way, because this other kids are. So it's all about like you're trying to fit in the school earlier on, like you're trying to hide who you are in grade school so that you fit in. Like there's a scene where young Mark is like, hey, what kind of music do you like? And I like Van Halen too, though he doesn't, because he doesn't want to tell anybody he likes Dean Martin and the Beach Boys. But now it's all about kind of like, hang on, these kids who just happen to live close to me and we're the same year, they don't have to be my friends. I can find other people with other interests. So now I find him, and Richie finds the guys in his band, and then you start to find your real people,
Right.
And Kevin Lewis, and he's like a guy, he's like a lighthouse saying, over this way, come on, over this way.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
okay, I'm going to go that way. And then you start to really fully form yourself.
But you weren't the cool kids or the jocks.
No.
Were you the nerds? What
Kind of unseen in a lot of ways. It's like not even nerds, because we weren't necessarily overly smart or anything. We're just like geeky, I suppose, or, But the other thing too is like at this point, there's not a single scene this year in a classroom.
Huh?
And that's by design, because I think in high school it's all about the hallways and the parking lot and the theater, and everything happens outside. For me, it's like Holy Heart was a way to get downtown at a certain point. And then I go down to the LSP Hall, the downtown scene and all this stuff, and finding myself more this year.
And you don't want the show to be about math. No,
science. And also we've done that, and and it's, from a TV production point, that's very seductive, because if you have a classroom set and you can just have these kids there and you don't have to move them or anything like that, that's very, very seductive.
Yeah.
But it's like, and we've seen that a million times, and how many times can you do it? So let's make it more about them all growing and finding themselves. Mark finds his theater arts teacher, he loves it. Richie's got a music program and he's kind of settled into his own friends, he loves it. Well, Fox, she hasn't really found anybody else, and so she hates it. And so she's like, this sucks,
High school.
It's not for her, because a lot of the kids I went to school with, we came from what was considered a tough school, but then you get to this new school where there's like 1,000 kids or whatever. Nobody knows you. Nobody knows your brother is tough, and now you're just a kid.
It's a restart.
You restart. So all the bullies, they had a really hard time, because they're like, do you know who I am? But no, I don't care. And everybody here is bigger than you. Like, I went to this school. I don't care.
So it's also a restart on the series in a way. Then
I think of it as like a reboot, because we have Pop's in his own room now. We have a new uniform.
So they're not sharing a room.
They're not sharing a room, but they talk through the wall.
Talking through the wall. I was wondering how that was working.
And Pop has a the ham radio set, so he's like calling all over the world. And then my brother they did a rebrand on the FM station, Magic 97. So my dad's side and Dick Dunphy's side is like the same station that's been there for the 50s, old.
Yeah.
Through the glass down the other studio, everything is state-of-the-art. CDs. Cool lighting, and they have it's a new owner. The new owner is Rick Mercer of the station.
Heard of him?
Yeah, so he comes in and spends all this money, and on that side, not on this side.
Right.
So that's a big change.
Wow.
And like
how did you approach this with Rick? What was the pitch?
I sent him a note and I said, "Come on, bye."
you used the buy.
Yeah, and he's
line.
like, let me see. All right, then he said. So he's like, yeah. So he's in.
That's awesome.
And so he'll be here tomorrow and stuff like that. And he plays which is one of the guys who basically a businessman took over the station. So he's a used car salesman who figures he sold more cars than anybody else in Newfoundland and Labrador. All of those cars have radios, so he sold more radios than anybody else in Newfoundland. Therefore, he knows the radio business better than anybody. So it's like, Jesus. So he's like, spend. He's all about, now there's all these things that you have to hit these targets. So it's a different world.
And we're talking about how the show reflects what happened again and again. But your brother, actually, there was just a ceremony celebrating an anniversary for him at the radio station, right? In real life.
No. In real life, my dad. My brother just had 35 years in.
Yeah.
35 years.
And incredible. So.
And they're still number one, and he's in that same freaking studio, and he's very popular. He's very good at what he does, and he's also the program director for the station. He runs the station and several others as well. He's a top dog.
And he did change his name, as we saw last.
Went to Campbell and never could go back. But he and now what's funny is everywhere he goes, he gets asked about the show and stuff.
Yeah, I bet.
Which delights him, but drives him a little bit crazy.
Oh.
but he loves it, and you get a lot of people calling in like to the radio station. It's like, okay, we got 2 Triple Trooper tickets to give away for the Trooper concert at the Blueberry Festival. Go to line 1. Yeah, it's the answer. Here for a good time, not a long time. That's right, you won your tickets. Thanks so much. By the way, Mike, is that true? You really go out with a pregnant missus? All right, okay, yeah, right. So he gets a lot of that, and so it's kind of a curse.
That's fantastic. I bet you it makes the show even more popular.
Well, Malcolm went on for a full morning with him, and he knows everybody and stuff. And Colton, who plays him, goes on with him fairly regularly, and will do guest spots where they're just on there. So it's very much a part of the show up there now.
Wow. So this is what's the mind blow for me is that, I mean, I've gone to high school reunions and I hang out with a few friends that I went to high school with, and we tell the same stories once a year at the cottage, and that gets kind of tiresome for our wives and ex-wives and everything else. But you're actually able to physically recreate it. Like you're taking those moments and you've exploded it into a television show that's very popular. Are there moments on this show where you just shake your head that you've been able to put this puzzle together in this way? Because it's
100 times, because when you're writing it, it's very personal still, and you're doing it, and it doesn't, you only see it then, and then you're putting it together, and there's casting and there's wardrobe meetings and all this stuff. You're not really seeing it then. You're just trying to get it all done too. And then all of a sudden you're standing in there, like in that room, and I'm looking at them, and oftentimes, this has happened to me a couple of times, where I said, that happened to me. And then, because you're just kind of, because you're focused on something else, and it's almost like peripheral vision, and it's like seeing a ghost, right, of the moment. Like with Kevin Lewis doing the class, it was really weird. And different moments, a couple of times I played my dad, I'm seeing dad's side of something.
Well, Mark, we talked earlier a bit about this. There's an episode coming up this season that, by going back and reliving your history, and you're making a TV show and you want it to be funny, you have to deal with embarrassing moments, and sometimes they're touchy. There's some, regret or shame involved in what's going on. So you talked a bit about that, and specifically about something to do with your dad in a scene.
Yeah, so Dad was an alcoholic, something I didn't know about until 1990.
Because you never drank at home when you saw him.
Never saw him with a drink. And I always felt weird about booze, because I'd be over at somebody else's house and their dad would be having a beer at the dinner table. I'd be like, what the heck? Because we didn't know. There's no booze in the house ever.
Right.
And I just didn't understand that. Like I didn't go to many people's houses growing up. It was only until like high school, and then people are drinking, and I'm like, oh, geez, how potent is a beer? I had no idea.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I'd seen stuff on TV, but I had no idea. And then Dad had been at a retirement party at work, and there's all these people there. Chief of police is there and stuff like that, and these different folks. And they're all like, Mike, have a drink. Come on, Mike, have a drink with me. And he didn't, in those days, he didn't want to say that.
Right.
So he had like a little drink. And then it led to a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth. Now, he'd been on the wagon since 66.
Wow.
Or 64, I think. And so he had fallen off the wagon. And then Dad got a little jollier around the house. I didn't know what was going on. I was off downtown doing gigs, like doing this thing.
Yeah.
I came home and I noticed something's going on. I'm kind of aware of it. And then Dad's got obviously really drunk. And he saw me there, and he saw me see him and ask what's going on. And, you know, it's one of those moments where it's like really after school special in the house. You know, Mom's very upset at this point. And he looked at me and he said, and I said, I wanted, you know, to stop. And so he said, I'm going to pour everything out right now. I'm never going to have another drink. And he went around. He had all this booze hidden in places. He had 2 beers in the stove. And he had
The stove.
Yeah, a bottle of rum, like, you know, in with the glasses that you don't ever use, you know, that cupboard, you know, and different things. And he just started pouring them down the sink. And at the end, he said, you're not going to understand this. He said, but I need to keep 1 beer for the morning because I'm going to wake up and I'm going to really want to drink. And if I don't have this, I'm going to go out and find it. He said, there's nothing's going to stop me from finding it. But if I had this, I'm going to call a friend. And he's going to come over and he's going to talk to me and he'll talk me through not having another one. Can I keep 1? I said, yeah. He said, okay. And I gave it to Mom and they went to bed. And I never saw him drink again in my life.
Wow.
So that was a, you know, pretty powerful moment in my life. And I got to this year and I kept thinking about it. I kept like scratching at the back of my head. And I was like, do I do it? Do I not do it? Do I do it? Do I not do it? And then I was like, no, I'm going to do it because it feels right. And then I'm standing there dressed as Dad. And I'm looking at, I turn, I look, and I see Benjamin looking at me like I'm like yelling. And I turn and I look at the door and I see Benjamin stand there looking at me with this look on his face, like, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, oh, I see why I did it. I see why I gave up right then.
Wow.
And it's like, it's you know that, but when you're in the moment, then you're like, it's one gift this has given me is so much of my life is being able to see things through my parents' eyes way more clearly. Because you remember things I remember that as, oh my God, what a hard moment that was for me as a young person. I was so scared. Now I'm looking at what he went through and what he gave up, what he did for me. Right? And
that's
that realization.
incredible.
So that's another gift this has given me is seeing the moments in my life that are important to me. When you're writing them, you have to look at them from everybody else's perspective. And you're kind of aware of it, but you don't really know it until you start looking at it. And so that moment for me, I was like, oh, okay. I get it now. And it just makes you a lot closer to them.
Did you run this script, this episode past family?
Well, I mentioned to my brother, actually, it was kind of funny. I had, last year, I had an episode about my brother dating a pregnant girl, a whole arc.
Right.
I didn't really, I kept meaning to tell him, and I was like, I knew he wouldn't like this. Well, it's amazing. He was dating, the girl it was not his baby. He found out she was pregnant, he kept dating her, and he was there when the baby was born, and they split up later. I thought, this is a heroic arc.
Yeah.
This is beautiful. And I wanted to do it. And I kept going, like, putting it off, and then my wife kept saying, you gotta tell him. I said, I'll tell him later. And then Colton would be like, did you tell Mike? I was like, anyway, I got to like a week before it airs. And I was like, oh my God. But I wanted to get them all edited and show them and go like, look, never talk to me again. You will always say no. Watch this. It's amazing. And he watched it and he said, what the hell is wrong with you? This is really good. Fine. So we got it. Yeah. But then I didn't have thought about this. So the baby's name was, a young woman and her daughter's name is Michelle, named Michelle after my brother Michael.
Yeah.
And so they used to watch the show. So they're watching the show. The woman is now 30. The baby's now 30. They're watching the show.
Oh my God.
And she goes, oh my God, Mike's dating a pregnant girl. And because it happens in church, and then the mother turns and goes, yeah, that baby, that's you. She says, what? And they have this discussion. They're in tears, and then the mother writes me this beautiful letter saying, the fact that you remember that and that meant something to you. I never thought of it from your family's point of view, because I was always like, I'm going through this thing, but the impact it had on the family, they're throwing a grenade in there.
So this TV episode has provoked this monumental, life-changing conversation between a mother and a daughter.
And then I ran in. I was at a wake, and I ran into this girl comes up to me and she goes, "Hi, this is going to sound weird, but I'm like, you're Michelle, you're the baby." And she said, "How'd you know?" I said, "I don't know. I had no idea how I knew, but I could just tell."
Wow.
And she's like, yeah. She goes, "Everybody introduces me now as the baby from Son of a Critch." and so this has been a big part of their life. And so these things happen. So this one, we were at something a little while ago, and Mike said, somebody's asking about the things. Go, that's not all true. He said, half of that stuff is made up crap. He said, "Mark, you should make the..." And I said, I don't know. Do you want me to tell the truth about everything? He goes, "Yeah, it'd be better." And then somebody said, "Well, he has that nice article, the nice episode coming up about your dad drinking." And Mike goes, "What the hell are you telling that for?" I said, "You just said you wanted it more truthful." So we had to talk about that. And I said, you know what? This is something I'm proud of.
Yeah.
Like we used to, and that's the other thing too, family things, it's all kind of shameful. You don't talk about something.
Yeah.
I'm super proud of what happened, and how many people have gone through that same thing.
It's incredible. These are stories you would not have told season 1 or season, right?
No, kind of earned them now, and you can settle into things a bit more.
Yeah.
And too, like the other thing too is like you should see Claire Rankin in this scene. She is amazing, and everything she does is great. But she's amazing in this. And you have Malcolm McDowell, you got Claire Rankin, you got Benjamin, you have Sean Doyle.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, you'd be a fool not to do some dramatic stuff.
Yeah, take advantage.
And all those scenes with Malcolm and stuff, and the kid. I mean, there's stuff this year, break your heart. It's beautiful.
The relationship between him and the nun last season too was very sweet and insightful and measured. It was really
and that started from a real thing. That was my dad. When I was a kid, they made me play cello, because they needed a cellist, and like Critch is a soft child, he'll be in the orchestra.
Your dad was a big Buddy Sorrell fan?
Well, no, they made me play the cello, and then I was like, and I had to get out of it because I was going to get murdered. So Dad was like, "Okay, I'm going to write a note." So he writes a note, and he says, "Sister Elizabeth." What's the name of his name? Sister Elizabeth. Sister Elizabeth? Yeah. It's Elizabeth so-and-so? Like, I don't know, man. He writes this long note. He said, "Don't read this, give it to her." I give it to her. She goes, "I'm going to write a note for your father." Gives it to him. Dad writes a note back. I'm on the 5th note between these two, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but they did shows together when they were young, and clearly something was going on. So that's where that whole nun thing, it wasn't between my grandfather and a nun, it was between my dad and a nun, really. I just shifted it that way. There was something unrequited there,
Yeah, sweet.
and then it grew into this kind of a thing.
And this nun that we've come to know and love on the other seasons, we're going to keep seeing her on the show, right? This character.
Yeah, I couldn't get, she's so good that I had to do a little bit of leap of logic and make her the vice principal of this school.
Of course, yeah.
Because you can't lose her. And it's kind of neat, like talk about their romance, but also we get into a bit through flashback this year of seeing Mike Sr.'s mother, who's passed, and young Pop and the grandmother when they were young. And that was wild when I look at, she died in 78 and had a hard life, grew up very, very poor. They had nothing, right? And then fought tooth and nail to kind of get through these horrible times before Confederation and stuff. And if she thought she was on a TV show, there was someone playing her on a TV show. Sometimes I think about that, what these people would think of if they realize that, because it's such a wild jump,
I'm sure they're fascinated and flattered in many ways. It's incredible to have your story on a television show, Yeah. It's incredible.
Back after this short message with Mark Critch. Well, heat up your candy cane, your hot chocolate, put on your best ugly Christmas sweater, and get cozy. 'Tis the season for Super Channel's annual Heart and Home Christmas holiday movie event, and it's brimming with ho 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 holiday cheer. The merry lineup of festive films has already kicked off and features 21 new movies, including 12 Canadian broadcast premieres and 17 Canadian productions. Making the holiday countdown merry and bright are fan favorites Candace Cameron Bure, Cameron Matheson, Danica McKellar, Jill Wagner, Eric Johnson, Josh Collins, and Oliver Rice. Follow Super Channel Heart and Home's Instagram page for dates and details. And remember, Super Channel is available via most cable providers across the country, as well as streaming via Amazon Prime Video channels and Apple TV Plus, as well as available to stream directly on Super Channel Plus. We're back with Mark.
Mark, I know you're got a TV show to make.
Well,
is Mark wanted on the set?
No, I'm good because Tim's watching the Monitors.
Okay. The season's 4 off, and traditionally, and I've been covering TV a long time. That's generally a pivotal year for a TV show. If it's going to last 5, 6, 7, who knows, right? And was that a significant mark for you, or you're just telling your stories every season anyway?
Well, I want to get to high school because high school is like the first bits are like growing up kind of stories, and but this is like when I kind of really get into being the me people might know a bit, sketch comedy and all this stuff. So it's like really formative and changing, and I was excited about this year because it's almost like a reboot. New school, new uniform. Mm-hmm. This guy who is like a comedian-y kid, he starts to actually do shows and things. So, and it's a big change in storyline, and it's everything is a little bit older, a little bit. It's as exciting as season 1. It feels like almost a different show within the confines of what it is, right?
You mentioned flashbacks. You guys have been doing more, it seems, every season. Benjamin's, doing all kinds of fantasies. Anything you can tease this year?
We have a great one. We have a moose hunting episode with Robert Joy, who plays his Mary's father. He's there, and he and Malcolm decide to take the boy moose hunting. So we go moose hunting, and Mark's vision of this is he has this like they're in a safari tent with the pith helmets and they're drinking brandy and they're with an elephant gun, and he's talking about we have a great one with Malcolm McDowell, Robert Joy, and Benjamin in full like old-timey safari gear, Teddy Roosevelt style. That's really funny. We have one because of this Peace Accord concert. We have a whole thing where he's John Lennon having a bed-in and all this stuff, with the beard and everything, and it's very good Liverpudlian accent because he's a Brit, So we have a bunch of different ones.
Who plays Yoko?
There's no Yoko. It's just him.
Missed opportunity for comedy there.
But he's great. I mean, and he loves doing that stuff because he's he has such a range. Yeah. So for these ones, you put him in this weird situation with a different accent or something. Yeah. And he lives for it. He jumps to the occasion. And at the very last episode, we actually see him on stage with the comedy troupe actually performing 3 sketches I actually did with my comedy troupe that year. Wow. So that's neat too, because he gets to be doing sketch comedy in front of an audience and stuff.
So you're showing him videos of you doing stuff back in the day, or at least pictures or clothes and everything?
Yeah, else? Videos. It's all on tape now and stuff like that. Like, remember Madly Off in All Directions? Yes. It was a CBC radio show. Yeah, great. Yeah. Lauren Elliott hosted. And so we had a break. My comedy troupe had a break on that as a young act where you're on national radio. It's a big shot. So we have that this year where it's a similar style show where they give us a break to get on national radio. So that happens this year. And it's neat. It's the sketches I did. Right?
It's funny. I used to do some stand-up with a friend, Pat Bullock, and we did some sketches at Yuck Yucks and things like that. But we did something for As It Happens. I remember we went down to Jarvis or Mutual Street and did something, and a couple times they played it, and it was very supportive, that radio experience. I remember
back in those days, that was big. Everybody heard it. Yeah. Everybody heard it, right? Yeah. And so that's the thing. It's like you get this chance, and it's neat to see, and Yeah, it's weird. So these are like really vivid, different types of memories, but and then of course you still have all that great family stuff as well. So sometimes it feels like you almost have 3 shows in one. You got this kind of wacky family show, you have this high school show, and then you have this other show about this kid who wants to be a comedian.
What surprises you about Benjamin now? Like now that he's at the age of the high school and he's able to tackle more?
Well, what big surprise for me is I saw a clip from season 1 recently, realized how young he was and how long he's been with it.
Yeah. And
well, it's just like he's so talented, but he's such a skilled actor now. He's really in command of his talents, right?
Yeah.
And I can see him looking at things in different ways. And before he's worked with coaches and he's been a child actor, but now a couple of times I see him, he's asked for another take, or he says, well, I'm going to do it this way, or actually, and he's really in the moment making choices or react. I love watching him with Sean Doyle, because Sean's very much an actor who likes to decide why he's doing things, and he needs to. He'll ask a lot of questions to make sure it's right. And I can see Benjamin watching Sean and how he works, and being quite interested in it, right? And so I just see him. He's becoming an adult if he's not already one, and it's just a different style of performance and much more layered. And his confidence, I guess, is the thing. He's always been a great actor, but I can see his confidence in who he is and what he wants to do, who he wants to be, how he wants to play. Because I always say to him, look, these are things that happen to me. This is tape me doing it, but do whatever the hell you want. You're making a character, right? Fill your boots.
But do you feel he's also drawing on where he's at? Like, this experience here in St. John's.
Yeah.
Right? Like
and also, like, if he's playing a guy who's 15 wants to be an actor.
Right.
So it's close to heart,
yes.
In a lot of ways. And he's going through a lot of these things as well. But yeah, these guys, the whole family is here. They just had a new addition to the family.
Yeah, I saw. Very cute baby.
The whole family is living here all summer. So it's good that way, too. I mean, for these guys, they keep saying, and I'm very happy to hear it, that for them, they just feel safe and secure here as a family. Like it's something they can come back to. It's a healthy environment for him to do this in, because it can be a tough business, especially for kids. And he's got a lot of support here. And I mean, how they're doing is the number one thing. And we try and start after the school year and finish before their school year, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So get them in and out, and so the kids are all right.
You're coming up to, season 5's other future seasons. I mean, I've read your book. This is largely based on Son of a Critch, and your life took all kinds of paths. Like it was not. You at a very young age started to really get into some professional territory, right? Would you stick to your story following seasons, or would you spend more time in high school, or what do you think?
Oh no, it's like. I'll tell you one thing I find very interesting. This is very true. There hasn't been a single time somebody has come up to me and told me they like a certain thing about the show and wasn't something that's true. I don't know why that is, but people can smell it. I don't know why it is, but people always come to me and say, I love this about this. I'm like, or I love that Pop said this. Now, it might not be Pop, it might be something my father said.
Yeah.
But I don't know why that is. I've never made something up that's more interesting than something that happened.
Okay.
So I tend to think like, and if you have, I don't think you have something to say necessarily, unless it happened, in a lot of, in a big way.
Yeah.
So I pretty much say the truth. I think we had a great. If we get to him graduating from school, I know how I want to wrap it all up, and it's all building to that.
Yeah.
So I would say, and it kind of like it grows. Like we have too, like this year we start to introduce the start of the COD moratorium here, which completely changed the place. Like 50,000 people out of work overnight.
Right,
and it was like the economy stalled.
Yeah.
All the buildings started getting boarded up and everything. So, and it became a very depressed place. That would line up with right when I graduate high school. We start with some closures and stuff now. So historically, we're on. It's interesting times for the province. It's interesting times for me. So I would just keep it.
Because you've dealt with provincial matters before in episodes, things that are big. Well, why do you think, as much as specific as this story is, why do you think it's so universal? Why do you think it's on the CW and it's doing great there? It's back for more. Why do you think it translates for people who've never been to Newfoundland or?
Well, you know what? I thought about this a lot because in 22 minutes in comedy I've always steered away from the hyper personal. Like, I never really did like, oh, take my wife jokes, or oh, my kids are crazy. I've never done any of that stuff because I don't know, it just seemed like too personal. Right. And I've always like, done political stuff and so writing the book was the first time I ever got hyper personal, and then people really seemed to like it. And then this show getting hyper personal and so hyper specific. Not many people went to Catholic school and grew up next to a radio station and all this stuff. It's not the situation I find, it's the emotion, right? And it's what it brings up. And a lot of people will say to me, something's like, or that happened to me. No, it didn't.
Right.
But the feeling, how it made you feel, happened to them.
Yeah.
And people will take that thing and they'll put it on something in their own life. But only if it's super, super specific and super real. So there's something about, I think we're all more alike than we thought we were, and everybody seems to have felt like an outsider, whether they're captain of the hockey team or not, and the family things and loss and change and all this stuff. And I think too, I hear a lot about families watching it together and grandparents relating to characters, parents relating to characters, kids relating to characters.
Yeah.
So all of them say, my show is on. Like, you know, you have a show.
Absolutely multi-generational. And you know, you're right. I relate. All kids are awkward.
Yeah.
The scenes on the bus with young Benjamin and girls and Fox and everything, and it's almost, some of it's cringeworthy because it seems so relatable. It seems to like a bullseye. I never rode a school bus in my life. You know what I mean? But it's still relatable. Like, it's still those feelings and emotions, just as you're saying.
That longing for that girl, like, you know, all these different things, and it's and we're getting into Pop's getting older now. We talked about that a lot this year, and issues and worries and stuff like that. So a lot of families go through all that. So it's and there is people always say they're longing for a simpler time. Well, nothing seems simple then. When you're going through it,
No, there's lots to deal with.
And I remember there's one scene here where Pop is like, people are bickering, and he lets them have it because he's, remembering the loss of his wife and things like this, because these are the good old days. He said, one day you'll be doing anything you can to be at this table arguing. Yeah. And it's true. Yeah. I'm still going on about it, right? Yeah. And so if anything people get from the show, I just say, like, be appreciative for what you're doing now, because you'll miss it one day. Talk about the cherry on top.
You get to have those moments with Malcolm McDowell. Like, you guys are in California, you're promoting the show, and you just say, oh, let's go see the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and let's go to Musso and Frank's. Let's go with Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah, and Malcolm's this big pussycat, and he's, we have so many long conversations. And he reminds me. The relationship I have with him is a lot like, it reminds me a lot of the one I have with. Reminds me a lot of the one I have with Gordon Pinson. Right, because it's like, this older guy. Yeah. The acting things, the whatever, learning. It reminds me a lot. Of it. Yeah. And I think I know how to hang out with an 80-year-old guy. But because of my upbringing, it's kind of like I am 80, and so I've always felt this way. So we'll have like all these references when he's like, do you know who this person is? I'm like, yeah, 100%. And do you know this? I'm like, oh yes, I know exactly all about that, and so it's kind of funny in that I get all the references and stuff, but then it's like there's this something too about being older and looking back at life and being at this stage in life that's quite interesting. We have great conversation. So it's a great friendship, and he's this Malcolm McDowell, but he's just this great guy, and he's so good to the cast and the different crew and especially the kids. Like he's very happy here. He says this is his favorite place he's ever shot. Wow. Because he keeps coming back. It's like a home, Yeah. The people don't get to come back to places much, and that's a great thing. Season 4, it's a real joy because it's not lost on me. It's not lost on Malcolm. You don't get this very often, right? You don't get to come back, and you don't get to like the people you work with all the
I don't
time.
think he's ever done 4 seasons of a TV show before.
I don't know. He did what? There's the he did a couple. Oh, was that Mozart in the Jungle?
He did Mozart in the Jungle, went 4, but I mean, he wasn't. I don't know if he was on the first season of it. He wasn't,
Yeah.
you know.
So it's like he's very comfortable here. His kids come here, and we all keep in touch too. Like when it's not happening. So that's a good sign.
Do you ever talk to him about Gordon Pinson? Was he on his radar?
Yeah, well, not really, but he came to. I hosted a memorial here for him, and Malcolm came and sat through it all and kind of mourned that loss with me a bit. You know, He was very curious about who he was and learned a lot about him.
Yeah.
And so that was losing Gordon a couple of years ago, then losing Kevin Lewis, my theater arts teacher, this year.
Oh.
But we had a night, ACTRA, the local ACTRA gave him like their kind of lifetime achievement award stuff. So we had a great night with Kevin before he passed, and and just 2 weeks ago, we had his actual interment up at the cemetery. And the interesting thing about Kev, he had a lot of loss in his life. He lost his wife to pulmonary fibrosis. He lost his eldest son, Kev Jr. He lost his middle son, Chad. So I've been at that plot 3 times with him. And then we, myself and Sean Doyle's uncle, we kind of put a flower in together. And that was so like, to be on set that week doing the first class I had with him.
Yeah.
And that weekend, I was there when he was putting this plot that I'd been with him 3 times before. It was pretty heavy. But then we're celebrating him, and the things he taught me are being celebrated, and they live on, right? So it's interesting. It's like that. It reverberates, these little moments, these little memories, these little things that I'm realizing why they're so important. They're still like ripples in a pond. They're still getting bigger as they go.
Well, it makes the show very, very special. It's my favorite sitcom, and it's coming back in January on CBC. Son of a Critch, season 4. And Mark, congratulations. I think on so many levels, it's fascinating to me, this whole House of Mirror back and forth that we've been talking about. I could go on and asking questions, but I think it's you must feel very fortunate to have this opportunity to turn life into art in such a way, right?
It's pretty cool. It's never lost to me. It's not a day I'm not grateful. It's not a day that isn't like just wonderful thing. Most people leave our set smiling. Like at the end of the day, people are kind of happy. End of the day, what I love about this place is people stand around chatting and stuff. There's not a big rush to get out,
right?
And that's a big gift. And to be able to do this not just with the cast, but with Tim McAuliffe and with Perry Chafe, who is a exec producer on the show and also one of the biggest writers on the show. It's like you get to do this stuff with buddies, So it's like good
Andrew
friends, and Andrew Barnsley and all those guys, and Hawko, but you get to sit there in a tent and kind of like, no matter how crazy it gets, and sometimes it gets very stressful, you're able to still look at each other and go, well, we're in trouble now. You know what I mean? So it's like, and that gets you through. Like, even no matter how crazy it gets, you can still get through it with a laugh. So you're making new memories while you're reliving the old ones.
Well, my only concern is that you're about to risk everything. You're going to actually put me in a back of a scene somewhere.
You're going to be right
tomorrow.
at the table alongside myself and Rick Mercer.
I hope you've thought about this carefully.
But it's going to be great. My God Almighty! Come on, look at this face.
What's my motivation? I need to, as Sean Doyle would say, what?
Your motivation is the station has just been bought by Rick Mercer.
Okay.
You would be one of the older guys there with the rest of us older guys.
All right.
This guy's talking about change. Your motivation is to smile and suck up enough to this guy that you're not the first head on the block.
Oh, okay.
You probably got 3 more years of retirement.
Right.
You just gotta in class when you don't want to be called on.
All right.
You just laugh at Mercer's jokes as hard as you can.
I'm a kiss ass.
We're all
I can do
desperate.
that.
Yeah.
I've had practice. Well, Mark, congrats. Thanks for that and everything about the show. It's just fun catching up. Hope to do this again next year.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank one more time Mr. Mark Critch, and remember to catch him and the rest of the 22 Minutes Troupe for their New Year's Eve special airing at 8 p.m. on CBC and CBC Gem on December 31st. And look for Son of a Critch to return for a fourth season on Tuesday, January 7th. And it's also back soon in the U.S. on the CW. Thanks as always to Phil Hong for producing this episode, to BJ Del Conte, Paul Boudra, Steve Dudley, and the Crispy Critters for the music you hear, and especially to you, listener. Please spread the word if you liked what you heard. I'm Bill Brio. Thanks for listening.